Hello out there in YouTube land, welcome to the OKGoodReview channel. And today guys, so I've been waiting for YouTube to put out their statement to the FTC during the comment period, and they have since done that. So they did it about a week ago, as you guys are seeing this. I didn't really want to disrupt the flow of the scheduled videos for this type of content, but there is a number of things that I wanted to kind of keep up on. And there will be a blog at the end of the year as well for the stuff that's going to start happening with this channel in January. This is something I want to talk about, how COPPA and the YouTube changes are going to affect this channel directly, and I will get to that shortly. However, I wanted to back up a few steps, and hopefully this is going to be shorter and sweeter. I only got one page. It was only half a page, as you guys can see here, and then I had to add a whole bunch of notes to it. So, I initially was going to wait for Creecraft's meeting as well. I'm not going to do that at this point. He had a long call with them. You can see that video where he talks about what was in the call and the conversation with them. And they're still getting something wrong, and YouTube is still getting something wrong. So the FTC and YouTube are both really coming at this wrong. And I think I've seen a lot actually, of lawyers' videos, because we can't count on our assumptions, I guess, being valid, right? And that's really what gets to the heart of a lot of this. There's a whole lot of assumptions being made, especially by the FTC, and they're very problematic when they're trying to enforce based on assumptions. It's like having somebody in your neighborhood get murdered and them assuming that you're part of it just because you are living in that same geographical area, which is ridiculous on its face, right? That would never meet any standards. And that's kind of the problems we have here. So let's just back up a step, okay? The main point of contention here seems to be the persistent identifiers. So we have two sides to that. Can YouTube function without them? I don't know. I don't code the site. I don't know. I don't care. That's not important right this second. We'll come back to it. We'll circle around to it in a second. So the persistent identifiers, let's just say this. What if YouTube had them expire? If the cookies or whatever identifiers they're using expire and they're not persistent anymore, they're only valid for that session, and they don't track people across the internet, is it still a violation? That's a question I think the FTC needs to address. If you make the identifiers expire, does COPPA still apply? Okay, next part of this. How is their interpretation meeting a burden of proof? In other words, how are they proving who is behind the information on those identifiers? Meaning, if it's a cookie, most of the cookies are storing IP, and there's other cookies that'll track websites and all that kind of stuff. So, but how are they establishing the age of the actual user, right? Because if I'm using a device and I watch a few videos, and let's just say we're doing this on a Kindle, right? So I'm using a Kindle. I hand it off to the star of our show, Liam Maddock, who's in most of these videos, and he's clearly not 13 years old. So anyway, I hand it off to him, and he checks out some other videos, okay? Then he hands it back to me. And then we watch videos together, right? So who does that identifier belong to? Me? Then him? Then both of us. We're not logged in. Let's assume we're not logged in. So how is the FTC going to actually prove that? And they say, okay, well, we can't prove it. They've already said that, right? We're going to assume. So if you start assuming, what happens to due process? Where to go? Right? If we're just assuming, we can do that with the murders again, right? If we don't have due process, that somebody somehow was the one manipulating that, somebody somehow was using the weapon and causing things to happen. If we don't have that, then how is it that we're going to try to enforce on that? I suspect, I don't know this, but I suspect that might be a large part of why the DOJ elected not to pursue the case. And FTC had to do it themselves, which, guys, by the way, really, really, really makes that settlement that YouTube decided was such a great thing look even worse than it did already. So now, when we look at this, a lot of this stuff is prompted by complaints from various organizations supposedly for the children and all that, right? But none of those organizations actually knows exactly what they're talking about or what YouTube does or even how it actually works. So we have complaints from organizations that don't know what a site does or how it does what it does. And then we have those enforced by an agency that doesn't know how the website works either. Yeah, no way this is going to turn out bad, right? No possible way for that, right? So you have lots of assumptions. The entire process is defective. And we step back and we start looking at that, right? We go, well, where did due process go? Why are we just assuming all this, right? If YouTube wants to do it, terms of service, fine, it's their site, right? When the government steps in, right? When you have an actual legal organization coming and trying to enforce this stuff, that has to be a necessary part of the entire process, right? Is the due process. You prove it. You prove it. You're saying, let's say for instance that they pick one of our videos, right? And they say, okay, well, this is directed to kids. Kids are watching it. It is persistently identifying kids across the internet. By the way, I'm not saying how it does that. Let's just say they're persistently identifying kids across the internet, blah, blah, blah. That's our first thing. That would be the first thing I'm going to say to them. Say, prove it. You show me that. You show me how, right? You show it so that a reasonable person, right? That's what jurors are made of, right? A reasonable person of peers would say, oh yeah, that's it. You guys intended on doing that. You know, despite the mountains of evidence that we don't target any age range, it's always been general audience. It's always been family friendly. Say, okay, well, you tell us how we're doing that. And you tell me how I'm responsible for that data. You tell me how I collected it. You tell me that. Because I didn't do any of that. Shoving all that in court makes a higher burden, makes a higher standard to meet burden of proof. And that's what's really missing right now. And that's why this interpretation is so incredibly flawed. So, the changes that are specific to our channel are, we're going to get into this a lot more in the 5th vlog when I go into the year-end thing. But there will be there's stuff we're doing immediately. Like I said, I've canceled a whole bunch of videos, and I'll get way more into that in vlog number 5. I don't want to spend a lot of time with it now, because I think that we really have that message that due process is missing here, and we can't go on assumptions. We can't do that. That this is way too broad all of a sudden, right? It's a tiny little agency, and they're making all these claims, and YouTube didn't force them to prove it. YouTube went, oh, well, we just want this out of our lap. And YouTube, by the way, with their comment to the FTC, did the same thing. They're just saying, hey, our creators are pavement. Feel free to drive over them at will. So, thanks for nothing, YouTube. By the time you see this video, I will have gone through again and done that binary for kids, not for kids. I'm going to test out a feature that I think is in TubeBuddy now. So, by the time that happens, that will be over. We don't make, like I said, content for kids. And like I said, our standard for that criteria is, would an adult conceivably find it interesting? So, again, probably less than 10%. I haven't crunched the actual numbers. But less than 10% of our videos, to me, would be something that an adult would not find interesting in any capacity at all. Which, by the way, does not include any of our toy reviews, because the toy reviews specifically, as I talked about in some of the other vlogs, some of those toys are specific to me. So obviously adults are interested in toys. There are adult collectors. You go to a Comic-Con and you'll see a stunning low percentage of actual children there. because they're going after an adult collector market. That's why there is adult collector shops. That's why they have toys in there that are in mint condition that will cost you many lots of dollars more than at the time when it was new. By now, the COPPA comment period is over, and my guess is that there will be an extension in January, just based on the sheer volume of comments. And this is without any regard to the change.org petition. I assume they might look at that, possibly. I kind of doubt it. It doesn't have any legal weight. But somebody has to parse through all those comments through the comment window. So my guess is that there will be an extension in January. I don't know that, but my guess is based on my experience with governments and how they work, and that they have extended the comment window twice now. So in the previous vlog, I talked about a lot of discussion points that could be taken to the FTC and for creators and so on and so forth. You can still petition YouTube directly. YouTube does not have an expiration date on any of this. So if you want to support the creators and the channels you love, YouTube needs to know that. And you're their core. You're what really matters to them. They keep saying creators, we can see through their actions that is false. But they cannot exist without viewers, right? Viewers are what matter to YouTube. And if the viewers are all saying, you guys are doing this wrong, you guys are hurting all these channels we love, then even if there's not an alternate, they still will need to listen, because you guys are what matters. So feel free to keep hitting YouTube up directly, and Google, and either of those two. You can hit them on Twitter, you can make videos like we are, but YouTube needs to be aware of that. And there's really easy fixes. Those are in the last vlog as well. If you haven't watched the previous 3 vlogs or checked out our blog, I encourage you to do that, because there's a ton of information there, a lot of background stuff to help you with messaging and things like that. Keeping it as simple as possible. But YouTube, that's the thing, YouTube very, very simply could correct all of this and continually chooses not to do it. And the reasons that they choose not to do it are not clear to me. I suspect they're worried about usage, which is why you, the viewers, are what matters. So we're probably going to lose a lot of engagement, because they're going to override us on a lot of videos. I'm saying no. Studio Series Transformers videos containing that subject matter are not intended for a younger than 12 audience. The toy itself is not intended for that audience. So why would content about it be for a 12 or under audience? It is stupid, flatly stupid, an incredibly dumb decision. And that's what the AI algorithm of theirs gets you, by the way. It gets you just dumb, overbroad junk like that, right? So that's why we need your voices. Because if you like to engage, if you don't want to have to go to Twitter to talk to us, right? If you don't want to have to go off-site and potentially make an account somewhere else that you don't necessarily want to have to engage with your favorite creators, YouTube needs to know that. Disabling comments is idiotic. You have to be 13 plus to have an account in the first place on YouTube, and you have to have an account in order to be able to comment. So I don't understand why they're dumping comments. It's just dumb, just stupid. So I know it sucks, but all viewers are going to have to work a little bit harder for the creators they love to support them for now. I know that a lot of them have been turned to Patreon. Like I said, I don't think we're ever going to do that. To me, it doesn't make sense for us to consider trying to do Patreon. And there's a variety of reasons, but at this point, we've never asked for money, and I don't know that we're ever going to. It's really not why we do this. You know, we do this really for a lot of fun and stuff. And if I'm a viewer, I don't know of anybody that I'm going to say, oh yeah, here's some money in your Patreon. It just, and if I would never do that for a creator, then I don't understand how we could ask for it. It doesn't work. We don't have merch. We hope to someday, if the channel ever gets popular enough. So definitely keep liking and keep subscribing. Those two things, as long as they don't take those away, please keep doing those. Those things are valuable to us. The way that YouTube has moved the goalpost, those metrics are critical, I would say, even to a channel like ours. And of course, obviously, views and view time and all that stuff is important as well. So sharing the content would be really good. You can also hit up the legislators. So in addition to supporting your favorite creators, also you can find the legislators, particularly the Congress, because Congress controls the purse strings for the FTC. So Congress says, this is a waste of taxpayer dollars. Why don't you come in for some hearings and explain to us why you're chasing after creators for something YouTube itself is doing? And while you're at it, why don't you explain to Congress in this hearing exactly, Mr. and Mr. Commissioner, why you think a personal identifier is actually data that's being collected on a child? Why don't you tell us exactly how you can prove that? You tell us how you came to that. And if you say assumption in this hearing, then we're just going to assume that all your organization is doing is wasting taxpayer dollars, right? So finding the congressmen that are over the FTC, I believe they're in Energy and Commerce. You can look that up. Finding them and getting them on the ball. A lot of them will not take comments from people outside of their states. Fine. Send it to your representative. If you're in the United States, send it to your representative. If you're outside of the United States, you can find a representative that may allow comments from people outside of their constituency. Or you can simply tag them on Twitter, right? Bomb them on Twitter. If they get enough of them, their staff is going to bring it to their attention, right? Every representative is on Twitter. All of them are. You might not be able to email them directly, but you can get to them on Twitter. And while you're on Twitter, you can get as well to the FTC commissioners as well. And possibly some of the directors. I don't know that for sure. I do know that the commissioners are all on there. If you are going to petition to the commissioners directly for the FTC, please be respectful. If you're not respectful, you'll get tuned out. I don't know that you're going to do any more damage, but your message will definitely not go very far at all. And you might get blocked. So please be respectful. They're making an error in judgment here. If we can show them the error of their ways, and you feel free to use any of these videos, like the one at the beginning of this one where I was ranting about due process being ignored. And I believe, by the way, that is the case. I think them trying to enforce stuff based on an assumption is fundamentally flawed, and it's beyond me why they're overstepping like that. Like it does not make any sense to me, other than it hasn't been challenged yet. Like it hasn't been challenged in court because YouTube ate the pineapple. But if we can anyway get it across to the FTC that they're making a mistake doing this, and basically what they're doing is hurting a bunch of creators like us who have never made any money at all on YouTube, but are throwing around $42,000 per video. We have 650 videos plus by the time you guys see this, right? So you can do the math if you want to, but 42 grand a shot is not possible. Let me put it that way. It is not possible for us to pay. And at that point, we're going to, like if it ever got to that, obviously we would have to do some major bowing and scraping trying to find a lawyer who would take it pro bono. But again, I haven't quite decided what is going to happen in January yet. It seems a lot like the FTC is really softening their stance from the more aggressive press conference in September. And I think Director Smith was just a touch edgier. I think he came across as a touch edgier than he actually meant to in that press conference as well. So a lot of people said the fish in the barrel thing, and that's an unfortunate choice of words. But that's the whole thing, right? Like you'll find somebody eventually that has the means to take on a governmental department like that. Or if they keep making it like this, it blows up to be big enough that it makes sense for a legal firm to take this pro bono, because this gets to be a really encompassing case at that point, and possibly even up to a class action. So the FTC, I think it is in their best interest to come correct on this. So they can, like I said, do one of two things mainly, which is they can either drop the persistent identifier thing completely, or if they really want to keep that, then they can just cut creators out of it, because creators cannot. There is no way for them to collect data. If I could collect data as a creator, I would have data. I don't. I have no idea who watches any of our videos. None. And that's fundamentally the ground we're looking at, right? Is that the creators are not doing anything to be in violation of COPPA. YouTube is. Yet the creators are on the hook for it, and YouTube, so they keep trying to propagate the idea that that's reasonable and acceptable and warranted and justified and appropriate. And it is none of those things. Anyway, hopefully you guys got something out of this. I'm going to cut it off here because I don't want to duplicate a lot of stuff that I'll be doing in Vlog 5 and that I've already gone over with. Finally, it's somewhat of a shorter video. Yay, hooray. But definitely stay tuned for Vlog 5. It should be the very last video of 2019. As well as we do have a lot of information on our vlog and on the Twitter feed. And there are 3 vlogs before this. So definitely anybody who is chiming in on this and trying to help their favorite creators, we love you guys. Thank you very much. Totally appreciate all of that. From there, you know the drill, right? Like, subscribe, so on. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.